So Frank, can you give me a description? What is provocative therapy?
Yes, I can.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. Well,
I'm all ears.
As I've said many times in your presence and others in different places, that provocative therapy is like playing the devil's advocate with the client. It's also playing the satanic role in this, although I'm firmly on the side of the angels, in that the therapist in this system sides with the negative half of the client's ambivalence about themselves, about the structures within which they live, about their life goals. And the therapist also urges the client, tempts them to continue their, quote, sinning, close quotes, their deviant, self-defeating behavioral patterns. Now the clients begin to protest this, and they protest so almost automatically that I was initially going to call it protest therapy because they were all saying, I'm not that hopeless, or I'm not that, bad, etc. I started off working with schizophrenics. That's how I discovered it. And the schizophrenics would say, Frank, we think you're as crazy as we are. Right. Because I would role play their delusions or their paranoia, etc., etc. But one of the main tools, if you will, that at the center of provocative therapy is humor. And different forms of humor, exaggeration, jokes, and then lampooning and burlesquing the client's ideas and their belief systems, which a lot of people think, well, then you're lampooning or making fun of the client. And I say, no, I don't make fun of people, I make fun of the ideas or belief systems that imprison them and trap them, etc. But the client, it's a crucial distinction, but a lot of clients say, in effect, love me, love my dog. Love me, love my hallucinations. I am my belief systems, etc. And but gradually they come to see that there's a difference between the two. They're not identical to each other. There's there are 5 different
element of empathy involved, right?
Yeah.
I think that's very important. If you see your work, that's also a very important part. It's not only the challenging, the provoking.
That's right.
It's not only the devil's advocate. There's also sort of a stream of love under it, so to speak.
That's right. It's and I talk about provocative therapy in one sentence. It's like the affectionate banter between close friends, with the twinkle in the eye, the smile playing around the lips, and an open heart chakra. You wouldn't say something, like the therapist says it like you would to his very best friend. And so it's an affectionate teasing quality to it, And there is kind of some confrontation, yes, at times, but like you said, that is not even the major kind of point of provocative therapy. There are, in this process as it evolved, and after I discovered this back in July 1963, there were a number of recurrent behaviors that began to come up with all these hospitalized patients initially, and then later in my private practice and so on. And one of them was assertive behavior. This was before assertive groups were formed, etc. They began, these sort of doormat types began to rear up on their hind legs and began to really make noises like persons and stuff. And
that's what you discovered when you started provoking them a little more.
Yes.
They became more assertive.
Yes. And then another thing, when I'm talking about in my workshops, which you've heard about many times, is that therapists have to deal with clients and patients' low self-esteem. And this is a big question. How do you deal with this? Many therapists around the world, they get burned out in the saying, they're like pumping up a balloon, man. You are worthwhile. You are of value. Your whole life can be different. And I did this too. till I was sort of exhausted. This is some way in which I just finally stopped saying, okay, I agree, you're hopeless, in the 91st interview with a chronic schizophrenic. And the provocative therapist agrees with the self-definition of the client as a person, what they say. And they don't like that. And they immediately begin to protest, well, they're not that bad, or they're not that hopeless, or etc.
And then they say it, or say it to themselves rather than you say it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And told many therapists around the world, I mean, you can say it till you are blue in the face, we say. Till you're breathless, with exhaustion, about you are worthwhile, you can change and stuff like this, until the client introjects this, makes this their own, and really begins to say it, and not just say it, but to actually act in terms of that, okay? Then it starts to become real, and the transformation can take place, yeah. So they have assertive behaviors and they self-affirmatory behaviors. They affirm their own self-worth. A third kind of behavior is that they begin to defend themselves. Rather than being sort of the weakest chicken in the flock, every farmer knows this, they begin to pack back if somebody is, bullying them or whatever. And or if they can't do it, then they get a bodyguard or some friends. They get or a gang. This is what adolescents do. They form gangs for protection and stuff like that. Identity and protection. The fourth type of behavior that is provoked in provocative therapy is that the clients begin to do psychosocial reality testing. They begin to say, okay, what goes, what doesn't? How do I wend my way through the maze to get the cheese, whatever the cheese is, a raise in salary, make new friends, learn a new skill, whether it's playing the piano, sport, whatever. What does it cost? How much do I have to put? What kind of effort do I have to put into this? And if I want to make friends, I can't just sit at home on Saturday night and fervently hope. I have to get out there where people are, and this type of thing. So they, some of the ways they do this is really, really funny. I caution them, of course. I wouldn't do that. Somebody as socially inept as you'd probably get out there and just look clumsy. You know what I mean? So hold off on that till I figure this thing out. Well, how long is this going to take you? They might have. In your case, it's hard to tell. It could be months, if not years. But they said they start saying, "Well, I'm not waiting here. This Saturday night I'm going on." I said, "Now wait a minute. This is impulsive. I don't care what you say and stuff." And they're beginning to act, assert themselves and defend their own ideas and get goals and plans. And they're going to go out Saturday night. Today's Saturday night. They're going to be all over the world. People going out, trying to make friends, bump into somebody. "Hello, sailor. Do you live here often?" That kind of thing. And the fifth type of behavior is that the clients learn to give out positive messages of warmth, caring, friendship, sexual attraction, love. L-U-V, love.
Well, how do you think that? In a humorous way, you challenge and provoke
Yes.
the client with warmth and empathy.
Yes.
So how do you think that causes them to get better reality testing and to express more affection?
The first answer is I don't know. All right. The second one is.
At least that's an honest answer.
Well, I mean, because I asked these, and other people said, "What? You're breaking all the rules of orthodox traditional therapy, and the clients change. Explain this." I don't know. I have some hypotheses and suggestions. One is that self-preservation is the first law of nature. And when somebody begins to agree with me about how whatever I am, deficient, inept, socially inept, etc., the natural tendency is to is to defend myself. And I say, well, I'm not that unlikable or that hopeless or that inept. It's really in some, if we can use a kind of graphic image of a seesaw, what do you call it, teeter-totter or something on the children's playground?
It seems like a very natural response.
That's right. That's right. If the child says, let's play the teeter-totter, he or she sits on one end, and then you come around and sit on the same end, the game can't go on. It's just stopped. Okay, you have to sit over on the other side, and then we can go up and down and stuff like that, and it's fun. But if the person comes around and sits on the same side as you are on the playground of life, teeter-totter, whoa, everything sort of stopped. It just kind of rested there. And they typically want to get around to the other side to kind of balance this thing out, you know. And this is another thing people say. Another thing is that I agree, I say the same thing to them that they say to themselves, or their mother, father, sister, brothers, etc., teachers have said to them, which they couldn't deal with before. Or, number three, what they anticipate other people are going to say to them, anticipatory anxiety. Now, the behavior therapists say, no wonder provocative therapy works. It has so much behavioral rehearsal that you do. The clients get all kinds of behavioral rehearsal, how to answer back this stuff. And not only with themselves, but with their families and their significant others, and other people that they're afraid are going to say negative things.
I've sometimes thought that because you have such a ludicrous, Dali-esque version of what they say to themselves, that the next time that they're going to say that to themselves, it's going to be difficult for them to take their own negative self-talk seriously. Have you ever thought that?
Yes, they said that. One woman said to me, she said, "You've sort of been like a like a mirror to me." And I thought, my gosh, that's a client-centered response. I said, really? She said, yes, but a kind of crazy carnival hall of mirrors, okay? So it was crazy. And she said, so when I hear myself saying some of these things, and then I hear your response, and I say, and I burst out laughing rather than get anxious and stuff. Yeah, people have said this. One physician said, provocative therapy is like a timed release capsule.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay? That it sort of gradually, slowly unfolds, precisely with a lot of this type of thing you're talking about. Situations come up again at work, family, you know, intimate relationships or whatever, and task performance areas, work, job, stuff. And the thing that made them feel anxious or insecure or kind of caving in before, they hear, people said, I hear your voice in my head and that laughter of yours, you know, and they say, not this time, Frank, and they go ahead. And they're laughing a lot of times, you know. So it's a kind of a polar opposite type of response than what they had before. Right. Yeah.
So when we teach provocative coaching, we used to call it provocative coaching. It's basically the same as provocative therapy. We get two basic objections from people. One is, what if somebody takes you seriously? So you say they're worthless, and people in the audience are often afraid that if they say that to somebody, they will take them seriously, and now they have this problem that even this well-respected coach or therapist also officially has certified them as worthless.
But the man on the street says, it's not what he says, it's how he says it. This is what I talk about, the twinkle in the eye, the smile around the lips, and the open heart, affectionate heart. How to say this? I have never told anybody you are worthless. I may say, well, all right, to use your own words, you just aren't worth much at all. All right, now it takes a lot of men, long hours of therapy to ride with this. You, first session. Now this is not necessarily a good prognostic sign, but nonetheless. And the guys, it's amazing how you can get somebody laughing at the very thing that was the most horrible thoughts that they had late at night all by themselves, yeah, etc. But it can, because it's sort of externalized. I sort of externalize their own internal dialogue. But it's sort of slightly off key, you know, in terms of the music kind of thing. The lyrics aren't quite the way they said it to themselves. The facial expressions certainly don't match his own when he's thinking this, because I do a kind of larger than life type of thing. It's a clown, really, type, if you will. My logo is this jester, upside down jester, you know, with the tragic and the comic man. Yes, there's sad aspects to this. There are, and they're funny. There's some funny things about this thing, and even their friends, and even the patient himself, a lot of times, he'll start laughing in the middle of this. And he says, but you know, this is serious. I really think this, I'm quoting now, I really think this way up here. It's an insight. And so a lot of times, my response to them is so different from what they expect. They just literally, some colleagues might say, that just throws them into trance. It's a pattern interruption. It's not, it's incongruent with their expectational sets.
Yeah. And another thing is that there's not a whole bunch of steps or structure in provocative therapy. It's not like, for instance, behavior therapy, where you have a structured program. And sometimes people are worried, well, if you don't structure it, you know, is it going to lead anywhere?
Well, when the client leaves, okay, your office, okay, whether you're a behavior therapist, psychoanalytic, client center, provocative therapist, whatever, who's going to structure it for him out there? The world, etc., out there. You know, and if he's one of the things that behavior therapists like to do is say, okay, if you start ruminating like this, you get up out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, you start cleaning the whole bathroom with a toothbrush or something like that, right? Okay, so if you're a behavior therapist client and you leave your therapist and you start getting these rumination about, you know, oh, I'm worthless stuff right then, what do? Whip your toothbrush out and start scrubbing the walls of the first public building you pass or something? Who's going to structure it for him? You will.
You as a patient.
You, the patient. Yeah. People have asked me, well, how do you know? Can you trust them to take out from all your messages and imagery, similes, analogies, metaphors, what they need or what they want? I said, can you protect them against the imagery that they're getting out there? No. I mean, I really wrestled with this for quite some time. I have months with colleagues and friends and stuff like that who really gave very freely of their time when I first discovered this. And I said, I can't overprotect them, but neither can you, and neither can, you know, their mommies or daddies or spouses or best friends. You can't protect them all the time, you know, from everything. So the clients, they take out what they want, and they push aside what they don't want. This is the way it's in every therapy, of course. Yeah, and in just life, you know. So who's going to structure it for them? Society, you know, they come to a red light, a traffic light, stop. They know this. They don't need me for that. They need to learn to set limits for other people in their relationships and so on, and set limits for themselves too. Alcoholics have to learn how to do this. You know, set limits for drug addicts. Yeah, to say no to yourself. This one guy said to me once, well, I just figure if it feels good and it seems right to me. I said, yeah, you can get syphilis real fast. You know, or AIDS, you know, felt good and it seemed right. Then I got AIDS. Ugh. Something was missing from the equation, you know. So this gets back to reality testing, you know. Well, I'm 37. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. Fine, you know. Let's see how far that gets you. You know, we need our friends. We all of us. We never outgrow our need for consultation. therapist is just a consultant you see on Tuesday morning at 11 or something. Yeah. But they learn. They learn
so
to be more open to and asking for advice from their buddies. What do you think about this? Etc. Yeah.
Okay. Another question is, you have been teaching this material for about 40 years.
That's right, this July, that's right, it's 40 years, this July.
And can other people learn this?
Yes.
Yes, they can.
Yes, they can, yes, they do, yes, they have, and yes, they will.
And what does it take to learn this method?
Basically, if you're born Irish.
That helps.
It's Dutch. But everybody has a sense of humor. Okay, this is the thing. They used to define the human person as homo as animal risibile. Human
is that Irish?
No, that's Latin.
Oh, okay.
And say this, which he knew, of course. The human animal is the only animal with a sense of humor. You know, can laugh or truly laugh. Any rate,
so that's what you develop in yourself.
Yes. And a lot of people, if you listen, I say, the last time you were talking with your friends, right, just celebrating, having a couple of beers, glass of wine, you know, and maybe you had the giggles that night. Everything seemed sort of funny, and you were just laughing. You didn't compose your responses. You weren't, you know, gritting your teeth with huge effort to do it. It just spontaneously came. You just blurted out whatever came to your mind. And a lot of times it was funny, sometimes it wasn't. Somebody said, ugh, that needs a little reworking, you know, or whatever. That was sort of funny. Anyway, it almost it didn't matter what the hell the content was that you were talking about. We just enjoyed being with each other. Yeah. And we were laughing. It was just this good fellowship, and it was camaraderie. Yeah.
And that's what you need basically to do provocative.
That
sense of humor.
Yes.
And, you know, being able to laugh and be with your friends in a certain way.
And help the client begin to laugh at some of the numbers. Because there really are some ridiculous aspects to this. When they do a reductio ad absurdum, they take it to such absurd lengths and stuff. This is one of the things they do, is to do a reduction to absurdity. Even they begin to kind of pull back, say, no. Not even I at my worst. I don't think I'm that bad. This is quotes, close quotes. One woman client said, yeah, patient.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this interview.
You're more than welcome. Okay.